What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast powered by Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. Victory Monday here on the podcast. FCS win, whatever. It was clean. It was a blowout over Bethune Cookman. Now getting ready for a ranked showdown with the second best team in the state of Florida, the USF Bulls. We'll talk about that game really all week, but still recapping last week, the college football world in general, a lot going on. Also going to talk Cam Ward's debut. What do we like? What are we concerned about as the Titans fall to the Denver Broncos? And going to look at some recruiting as well. While the class, we get the commitments and they get in the boat, but it's not done for them. They're still playing high school football. They're having senior year. Some guys are rising. Some guys are falling. So we'll get into some of that film with Pete. First, talk about some folks that are always rising. That's Andrade and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Andrade and Levine. Pete, hop in.
Good morning, D.
What's going on? How are you feeling?
Feeling good, man. We didn't get to catch up this weekend on air, at least, because I did the post game. You did the Sunday morning. So, there's not much to necessarily dissect from the Bethune game itself, but I know that we will. And Steve-O had a great film review. I love those up on the page. So we'll have those every single week. I know a lot of you guys have been getting into those. And then we had Lance on last week talking about the win over Notre Dame. So I'm guessing we'll have him back on hopefully this week. We got Amon tomorrow. We got Steve Kim at some point this week. So we got this weekly lineup is coming together. I think week one, we had Golick and Jess on for the opposing side. Last week, we didn't bring anyone on, maybe disrespectful to the Bethune community and fan base there. But I think we got to get a USF reporter on this week for sure. We got a lot to talk about.
Do we bring back Tito? Is he still?
I think we should, man. Tito, you know what? I don't even know why I even said anything else there. Tito's the guy because Tito has the knowledge of the Canes as well. So he understands, I think, how this thing will match up. So we'll get Tito on here.
Yeah, no, a big Tito fan, former CanesInSight writer, along with Peter Reeves, Peter, your protege, really.
I don't know if Tito would say. I don't know if Tito would agree to that verbiage right there. But yeah, I got a lot of love for Tito. So hopefully we can get him on this week. We got a lot of Canes win, Cam Ward debut. Got some recruiting stuff to get to. We've gotten into some of the rumors, so to speak. I know you dropped the bank over the weekend. You've dropped a lot of info recently there, but also just kind of like updating how some of these guys, their seasons have gone. So what do you want to start with here?
Let's just start with the team in general as we head into USF. So we'll do deep USF stuff over the course of the week, and we already kind of did Bethune wrap up. But just in general, man, I feel good where we're at health-wise. I think Jordan Lyle, we got a lot of questions about Jordan Lyle. He should be coming back soon. I think Trader could be back soon. I'll get more confirmation on that, but I'm not sure that's a long-term deal there with JoJo Trader. Just in general, is a healthy ball club. You got guys pressing up and getting more playing time. A Samson Okunlola on the offensive line, becoming that sixth starter. That's been a positive development. Wide receivers, guys knocking on the door. I think Dalen Upshaw has made a case for some more playing time. Ray continues to earn his spot, looks twitchy and explosive. Tight end, we see more Luka Gilbert, more Brock Schott. Can we see Elijah Lofton more in that fullback kind of running back role, which I think is really his bread and butter, H-back. A lot to kind of look for in the offense going forward, but the fundamentals of the strong offensive line, the running game led by Mark Fletcher, and just the power element, and then Carson Beck running the show, making the plays he's supposed to make and being accurate. It's a very proven formula for success, and that's veteran, good quarterback, in this case, first-round talent quarterback, power running game, elite offensive line, dudes on the defensive line that can win one-on-one, Ruben Bain, Messidor, Blake, Justin Scott, Moten, etc., and then a secondary that has length, can run, and can play man. You look at that formula, plus you don't turn the ball over, no turnovers through 3 games. obviously need to protect the ball here against USF. That's a pretty good formula in the history of college football to have success. So as long as we stay consistent to that formula and we stay healthy, I think we're going to have a pretty good shot here.
Yeah, the offense, I think it looked crisp, especially with Beck out there in the first unit. There's, we can get into some of the young guys who flashed. I was excited to see Luka Gilbert. He also had that one where it was a tough catch. He took a smack on, I think it was the 4th down. They went for it, but had a nice catch up the seam there. You see what he can do potentially down the line. But yeah, I mean, like you said, relatively healthy, right? Nothing suffered from this game. I think we got a lot of questions on certain health statuses before the game the other day. And what I said is, look, if they don't play, then obviously they're nursing something. I think that can be the case. I know Hayden Lowe, Joe Rose this morning, Mario said it could be a while there, which I got to be honest with you, I hadn't necessarily heard that one. D, I know you're privy to more stuff than I am a lot of times, but I still don't think that's something that's like going to be anything catastrophic. I'm pretty sure we'll see him here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, no, nothing catastrophic, but he was nicked up pretty, I want to say the last week of camp, even before you got to the prep for Notre Dame. He was out. Again, not catastrophic or anything like that, but he was out. So he'll be a minute, but very talented guy. His time will come. I think we're good at that position right now. Malik Bryant got a lot of playing time this past week. He played a little bit against Notre Dame. Marquise Lightfoot, different. They're more of the boundary.
Herbert Scroggins, I think, earning some playing time. D, he's someone that's been mentioned to me that, I think it was maybe when he first got here, kind of thought, is this, this might be a redshirt guy. Has some weight to gain and all that, but I think he might be earning himself some time. We'll see if he gets over that 4 games played, but I think he'll get some serious reps here moving forward, especially when you get into ACC play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And one guy, this is a different position than Lowe. Lowe's on the other side, need Armando Blunt to get healthy. That's another guy that plays that position. That's actually ahead in the depth chart. Need to get him right. I think he should be okay. But the guy that really jumped out to me, and we talked about this yesterday, Marquise Lightfoot on that boundary side. He was so explosive, so fast. Seeing him in person, Pete, he is a different speed than a lot of these guys. I mean, he really moves like a defensive back almost, which is how much his closing speed is, the twitchiness, the change of direction. Obviously, he's 6'5", so he's got a little more length than your average defensive back. But he's somebody I think is going to make a big impact. You got to tackle this quarterback now. This quarterback's going to be bigger than him and bigger than a lot of the defenders on the team. But I think he's going to be a major, major factor going forward as we watch this team. I want to ask a question, Pete. We always talk drafts. So 2 weeks in, I want to talk about this because this is an interesting conversation to me, which is TJ Preble says, I haven't seen a QB in the country that'll get drafted before Beck this draft. So
I was thinking about it this weekend too. I think there's still a lot of tests ahead. Maybe not, looking at the way the Florida defense looked the other night, but we'll get into that, I'm sure, at a certain point as well. But no, you need to continue to see these clean performances. I can't really take anything from what we saw against Bethune, other than that's what he's supposed to do against Bethune with the talent and protection that he has in front of him. I think as this season continues to build here, if you see what you've seen from up front and then the surrounding cast, that, hey, you still want to see some explosiveness from that group, and you want to, which I think a guy like CJ Daniels, as my new setup here is falling behind me, but you've had some stuff early on from the receivers group that you can be very, very confident and excited about, right? You want to continue to build on that. And look, we'll get into Cam Ward's situation here in a little bit. I'll tell you what, playing quarterback for Mario Cristobal ain't too half bad with what he provides around you, as we saw what happened yesterday with Cam, and I think early on here what we've seen with Beck.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting evaluation with Beck. I think part of it is he's a different kind of personality. He's saying in interviews that he fell out of love with football, so he got emotional. Those things for me personally, I like, right? But if you're talking about a NFL GM, that kind of candor, sometimes you've been in that process, people can take it the wrong way sometimes. So maybe be like, oh, this guy fell out of love with football. What if we have a tough time? We're first round team. Maybe our team's not that good. Is he going to stay with it when things aren't going well for us? It's a professional environment. There's a lot of criticism, whatever. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm saying
1 year can change a lot in that narrative, though, because the word on Cam Ward was not great coming into Miami either. Like from the outside, he didn't have the same scrutiny, D, because he wasn't at Georgia. But you heard a lot of the stuff. You talked to some of the people that I talked to in terms of the NFL. Like there was a lot of questions. I don't think he left Washington State. Like, yeah, he left them. So that's, but it's not like they had great things to say about him coming out of there.
No,
so
and
he had a lot to change the narrative around him when he came to Miami as well.
100%. Georgia's going to have to say what they say about Beck, but the truth is, I think Miami's staff is very happy with Beck. I think the players are very happy with Beck. The people in the building are very happy with Beck from a personal standpoint. Forget the player on the field. And then, did Georgia really make the right decision? That's up for debate. I didn't think they looked good at all this past weekend against Austin Peay. Gunnar Stockton, to me, is extremely average. I think they made a bad decision going with him. I think Kirby is kind of feeling himself a little too much. He's had so much success, probably the best coach in college or one of the best coaches in college. So he has a certain amount of pride. I think that pride hurt him in this scenario because he said, all right, I can just get another Stetson Bennett, forgetting that, first of all, Stetson Bennett had some playmaking ability. Number two, you have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, a bunch of other guys that you don't have now. So I think Georgia made a mistake going with Gunnar Stockton over Carson Beck. I think they'll find out over time how bad that mistake was. But that's something to consider with this whole process. Looking at some of the other names. So Beck has been phenomenal through 2 games. One game, really just FCS game. The other one, a very tough defense, great secondary. You've seen the same kind of player. Stands tall in the pocket, good size, big lower body, quick release, strong arm. Yeah, he's really, really throwing it with accuracy. You're not seeing a lot of missed time throws. He's throwing it off platform a little bit. Had a nice throw to Malachi Toney last game off platform. Of course, the 2 touchdowns against Notre Dame, the first one being a really, really good throw. So Beck is showing a lot of just experience as a 23-year-old who started a ton of games, and the tool set is there. You look at some of his competition for that first overall pick. I've seen Arch Manning in those lists. I think you can probably move him off those lists. He's going to stay, and he needs to get stronger or healthier too. He's like grimacing when he throws. I don't know if did you see that when Arch Manning was grimacing when he was throwing the passes?
Yeah.
So, that's a guy that I think probably stays. Okay. Lightweight is not eligible, and he's not playing well anyways. Other names that you've heard at that spot, Cade Klubnik has not played well in big games. And I think the big question I have with Klubnik is I just don't think he's that talented. I think he's a backup kind of physical profile, good college player, but for pro, I just don't think he has the physical skill set to move up, especially when the team's not playing lights out. So I think Klubnik, you could move him down the board. Lenore Sellers, to me, the most talented of all these guys, the guy that jumps out from a skill set standpoint. I don't know if you saw any of the game against South Carolina State. I watched highlights. We were going live at that time, but 11-19, 128 yards, 1 touchdown, 19.9 QBR in that game. Didn't run the ball particularly well. Kind of a workman-like win over South Carolina State. Not the best performance for Lenore Sellers, and he didn't play out of this world against Virginia Tech either. So some up and down play. He's missing a lot of throws. Very talented, but he's missing a lot of throws. And then you go to Garrett Nussmeier, who's, to me, very similar to Beck from a just kind of profile standpoint in terms of being that veteran player who's played SEC games. Beck has more experience than Nussmeier. Nussmeier was Jaden Daniels' backup for a couple of years. But you look at their numbers in the SEC, very similar. Beck actually probably better when you include his 2023 season. Nussmeier plays well against Clemson, plays much worse against Louisiana Tech, only 23-7. It's amazing seeing these great teams struggle with these very average opponents. 26-41, 237 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. So nothing crazy there from Nussmeier. It's not going to make or break him, but I think when you put Nussmeier and Beck side to side, if I'm making the case for Beck, I say everything that Nussmeier does from a mental standpoint, from an experience standpoint, from an accuracy standpoint, Beck does. And then Beck is also, and they both have quick triggers, but then Beck also is bigger, right? Just more talented, better arm, in my opinion, than Nussmeier. Nussmeier's sneaky small. He's like 200 something, like I think he might be under 210 pounds. And he's not the tallest guy. So I think Beck's size gives him a distinct advantage over Nussmeier when you stack them side by side. So that is something to watch going forward. John Mateer probably needs another year in my view, but very talented guy, runs around, big legs, made some very great plays against Michigan, also threw the ball in harm's way a few times. What do you think about Mateer? Did you get to see that game, Pete?
Yeah, I like Mateer. I think that right now it's still more of a college style of play, if that makes sense. Like I still think there's questions as to how it's gonna translate. He's one of those guys that I think the offense, which I guess you're going to draft a quarterback that high, you're going to gear the offense around him, but like it needs to be a certain style of offense, right? So we'll see. I would tend to agree with you, but he's going to play in a lot of big games this year. He's going to get a lot of opportunities to continue to get better and continue to prove he's that guy. So I wouldn't count him out of the conversation just because he's got some real juice to him. And same thing with Nussmeier in terms of having a lot of opportunities against big time teams. If he has big performances in those games, then I would think that that's going to be a big part of the evaluation process for them. Like I think Beck, although Ward was able to do it without a playoffs this year, I think Beck will be judged on a lot of what happens if Miami can get to that playoff and, seeing how he performs in that stage.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I think that's true. This is going to be a evaluation that goes on into the deep water here. XRP and Peony Boys, we appreciate you with your super chats. We're going to get to that in a second. So we're getting to those questions. Appreciate you, Martin from St. Kitts, repping the U on the island today. Just looking at some other names here. Drew Aller, right, is another one that we haven't talked about, that he's going to be in that mix.
We talked about him on the pregame show the other day. I think maybe late first, early second, but he's not to me a slam dunk top 10 pick.
Yeah, I just don't see a lot of he's not unathletic at all. He just doesn't I don't feel a lot of, just quickness with him. With Beck, he's a quick twitch guy, but on top of being a quick twitch guy, he's got a quick arm. He's got a quick mind, and the ball's out of there fast. I don't see that with Aller. Everything just looks kind of slow and lumbering. He's a bigger guy. Better game, yes, on Saturday than we've seen. Obviously, the opponent wasn't great with FIU, but he did make some plays. So, he's okay, right? I don't know. I'm not ready to put him over Beck. I think he just the quick reads and the quick arm of Beck would give him an advantage, in my opinion. But we'll see how that one. I think it's kind of like what you said about Beck, Pete. That's an evaluation that goes into the playoffs and see how he plays there. Sam Levitt, he could go pro. He could stay. If I were him, I'd probably stay another year, but he has a pretty good arm. Lost to Mississippi State this past weekend. Wasn't necessarily his fault. Talon Green out of Arkansas, pretty talented guy. I think he could be like a sneaky guy that people don't talk about, and then they're like, wait a minute, Talon Green, who was like Shuck? Remember Shuck? Really, we were the ones talking about him as a big time guy last year, prepping for the game. We said this guy's as good as guys at Alabama or Texas or these big time schools, and turned out to be a really good player and a second round pick. I could see Talon Green from Arkansas being that guy, 6'6", 224. He can run. 6 touchdowns in his opener. Obviously, overmatched opponent. Really, they haven't played anybody yet.
Third in QBR nationally, as Johnny Lagoon points out.
Yeah, so that would be my sneaky name right there, is Talon Green. I could just see him, in November, December. People are saying, "Hey, this guy's a great prospect," and we haven't even thought about him. Fernando Mendoza, who we know hasn't played anybody yet, looks pretty good at Indiana, but time will tell. I don't know. Those are the names in the mix. Sawyer Robertson, I think, has some fans, but Sawyer Robertson also.
Yeah, he looks good.
System's a little wonky. He's a little inconsistent. Older guy, which will help him. He's got size. He's got athleticism, but I'm not sure he is going to be a top player, given the Baylor quarterbacks typically bust. I know different scheme, all that, but he's going to have to deal with that stigma. And just the inconsistency that he plays with was inconsistent to me against Auburn. He'll put up good numbers, though, and he's big and pretty athletic. I don't know, Pete. Of all those guys I've listed, who would you put as the favorite to be the number 1 overall pick or number 1 quarterback picked?
Probably Nussmeier still.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Beck can be that guy, and I think he should be in that right there in that conversation. I'm just understanding how this stuff works. I still think through 2 games, I don't know that Beck, like talking about if the draft was right now today, right? But Beck would be a first round pick.
I think
No
so.
question.
He might have been picked
No
pretty high
question.
last time, even with the injury. When you look at some of the guys that got picked, like the way
Sellers,
guys,
Sellers, as Johnny says, would probably still be just based on the tools.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to leave.
He doesn't have to leave, but
he can get a big. I mean, I hope he does because we play him next year. So I hope he leaves, but he does not have to leave. So we'll see. Yeah, I would agree. Sellers is going to be is someone that gets a lot of attention. He has a lot of good tape already. Man, my sleeper is that Taylon Green. I could just see his name popping up. Right, he plays one good game against SEC competition. I could just see his name popping up. But Beck is doing, I think, what he needs to do to have a chance to be a very high pick. And as a Miami Hurricane fan, couldn't be happier with what we have under center.
Indeed. Well, I want to take this one question real quick, and then we can move on to the next thing. But Vaughn says we agree that Lagway is overrated, right? And I'm actually going to go the opposite of what most people would say here. I don't think he's overrated. I think it's almost in a sense like what has happened with Arch Manning, where the outside has created a lot of stuff. I don't think Lagway was very consistent last year, but the electric throws, his ability to move. I don't think he's healthy right now. From what you see him with the sleeve on his calf. I think you see him moving around there. He looks a bit heavy to me right now. D. I think we were talking about it the other day. He's 250, listed at 250. Like, I don't know that he needs to be that big, but I think he's a tremendous talent. I think the play calling is horrendous. I've said that for a while. I just don't think Napier's a good play caller. And you're excited about the young pieces around him from the receiver standpoint, but the O-line to me is still not very good. And you bring in the 78th ranked portal class in the country. So as a whole, they really didn't, I don't think, make this roster much better from what it was, as we've said. So I'm not so much on the Lagway hate train. I think he's legit, D, and I think in the right situation, he would flourish. I still do. Now, again, it's not like the kid is out there saying, hey, I'm the best quarterback in the world and all that. Like, he's not bringing that. I think people kind of overestimated, though, based on the end of the season there for the Gators. When you look at some of those games they won, and he had some really nice flash plays, but it's not like he took those games over himself.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm still on the Lagway train. I thought he did show some inconsistency in this game, and it looked just rusty. He hadn't practiced a lot. I think you saw some of that. I wonder if he could lose a little bit of weight. Not that he's out of shape, like a Jamarcus Russell situation. The guy seems like he works really hard. That's one of the things I like about him is he seems like a pretty on-point kid compared to like an Anthony Richardson, to use a Gator quarterback example, who I never trusted, was never even good in high school. Lagway was very good in high school, and I think is doing the right things, but he probably lose some weight. Obviously needs to stay healthy. I think I've said all year, I think the Gators team is extremely overrated. I think their talent is monumentally overrated. I mean, they got some players, they can beat you. They can beat Miami on a bad day, but I don't think they have very good players. I think their players are basically a media creation for the most part. But Lagway, I think, you see the arm. I mean, the guy's arm is probably the best in the country, I would say.
He did miss some throws the other day, too. So I don't want to there were some throws he missed. There were some guys who were naked up the seam that he also missed. So, there's still some development for him to go. He wasn't the full-time starter for them last year. He played a lot of football last year. So it's, I'm not trying to make excuses for the guy. I'm not trying to sound like a Gator apologist here, but I think there's a lot more issues than him right now. They didn't invest in the right places, in my opinion.
They invested in a high school. They were the 78th ranked portal class with a team that wasn't good in the first place. Plus, they lost 30 guys. I didn't understand their roster construction whatsoever, especially if you think Lagway's that good. You want to build around him immediately. Like we went all in to build around Ward. We went all in to build around Beck. I mean, if Lagway's what they think he is, they only have him for one more year. So true freshmen aren't going to help you too much. I thought that was a very, very strange approach to the offseason. The coaching with Napier has been well documented, but it was abysmal in that game. And it's just a sinking ship. If they don't get it done this weekend, which I think they do have a chance to get it done, LSU is going to be missing their starting center, the kid Moore that we talked about from Virginia Tech. I believe he has a high ankle sprain, so missing a center. LSU, you can see that kind of disrupting their operation a little bit, but they have a veteran quarterback. It's in the Death Valley. We'll see how that one goes, but that's going to be Florida's chance. If Florida doesn't win that one, they're going to be in some tough straits with everything they got coming up, including the Miami Hurricanes. But overall, interesting quarterback landscape right now. I think it's still very much unsettled, but Beck, with a couple good games, starting with a game against a ranked opponent here in USF, I think could be right there in the mix for that number one quarterback selected.
Well, you know who's in the mix for the number one Wagyu beef in the country? Lomelo's Meat Market. Guys, this is the best in the business. It's local here in Miami, 98th and US 1. You get the Australian Wagyu, the American Wagyu, the Japanese Wagyu. You get the prime beef. So this isn't just steaks. You get all the different types of cuts of steak. Skirt steak. You see the Denver here, which is my personal I don't know. The skirt steak actually probably is my personal favorite, but the Denver is unbelievable. And then you get the burgers, the sausages, everything. Promo code CIS10 for nationwide shipping. So if you aren't local here in Miami, check it out, lomelos.com. This is what Mario orders for the recruits on campus. This is what the 5-stars are eating, guys, when they come and visit Coral Gables. So check them out, lomelos.com.
Yeah, and I got you mentioned a Columbus-owned business, right? That's Lamelo's. I got to go with a Belen-owned business, and that is Islas Canarias Express in the Dayland Mall Dining Pavilion, the single best Cuban restaurant in Miami. You don't believe me? Talk to my guy, Raf Lopez. I'm guessing Rafael Lopez. I went to Islas last week due to your mentions. Appreciate you. Delicious croquetas, Cuban sandwich, and coffee. We'll be back.
Hit that Zoom button there so people can see the menu, D.
Yeah, we'll get in there
up top.
But that's blocking and tackling right there with Islas Canarias. If you get the Cuban sandwich right, if you get the croquetas right, you get the coffee right, you're in pretty good shape. But then you also have different things going on. Look at all the different types of croquetas, 7 different types. You got the OGs, the classics, bacalao, ham, mojo chicken. You get the more Spanish style jamon serrano. That's more like the actual European Spain style croqueta, which has since been refined and improved, in my opinion, in Cuba. You got the vegan one for me, and then you got all kinds of samplers if you want to spread it out. So no matter how adventurous you want to get or how simple you want to keep it, they got you covered there. Look at this right here. The Banco Minuto right here, the crispy fish sandwich is outstanding. That's a classic. I always say vegan. I'm not actually vegan. I'll eat fish sometimes. I'll eat that crispy fish sandwich all day with some breaded fish. But look at all the options. You want meat right here, the cubaritos, the loaded fries, the soups, you name it, they got it at Islas Canarias Express, number one Cuban restaurant on the planet.